Hi. Thank you so much. Everyone stand up. Whew. All right, we're going to breathe in and put our hands up. And exhale and bring our hands down. Let's do it again. It's been a really long day, and it's kind of hot in here, right? Hands up. Exhale. You can shake a little before you sit down. I needed that, so I figured everyone else might too. So first, I just want to thank all of the organizers. This has been an incredible day. I've learned so much, and I am overwhelmed by how much everyone seems so connected to each other. So it seems like a perfect theme, and I was grateful to be part of something around connection, considering that's something I live for. So I always considered myself really lucky because I always knew what I wanted to be when I grew up. I wanted to run for political office. As early as middle school, I'd have these visions of myself organizing large groups of people around central principles and goals because in my naive mind, that's what I thought politicians did. When I was in high school, I wanted to get a taste of what it would be like to run for political office. So I was involved in student government every year. By the time I got to college, I not only could continue my involvement in student government, but I could also get involved in Capitol Hill, and I could major in political science. I wanted to check all the boxes. So there came a point my junior year in college, I was student body president at the time, where it occurred to me that perhaps my level of confidence didn't match my level of ambition, that I had these grand visions of myself in a role in politics, but maybe I didn't actually believe I was capable of doing it. Did I think I was smart enough? Did I think I was strong enough? Did I think I was attractive enough? The truth is, the more I thought about it, the more I realized I didn't actually believe I had what it took to run. In fact, maybe the reason I'd run for office every year in high school and every year in college was to get some sort of external validation from my peers that I wasn't getting from within. It's kind of a devastating realization, kind of embarrassing. I didn't want to tell anyone, so I figured, okay, I'm a problem solver. I can fix this problem. I can intellectualize my challenges with self-esteem and confidence. I'll spend all of my senior year studying it. And that way, maybe I can kind of heal that wound. So when I went to go do my research my senior year, I wanted to start at the top, which I'll get from the bottom. I wanted to start at the top. I wanted to go look at the mother of the feminist revolution, Gloria Steinem. She had helped thousands of women help find their truth. Surely she could help me cure my self-esteem issues. And if you don't know Gloria Steinem, this is actually the book I bought 10 years ago. I still have it. It's like my Bible now. But she had written a whole book about self-esteem. It's called Revolution from Within. And the reason I was drawn to her work is because she said, within each of us, a healthier self exists, waiting for encouragement. A healthier self waiting for encouragement. This notion that no matter where you may be right now, what you might be struggling with, that deep down you know that you're capable of achieving more. You have this vision of yourself for where you can be, and with a bit of encouragement, you can probably get there. So I was really optimistic when I opened this book. It's big, but I knew that this was going to be the beginning of a long journey of learning about confidence and self-esteem. So what I learned right in the introduction on one of the first few pages, as soon as I opened it, that it turned out that the manuscript she submitted initially, that she had spent 2 years reading and writing and researching, was actually rejected. She hadn't put any of her own story in this entire book. Her friend said, I don't know how to tell you this, Gloria, but I think you have a self-esteem problem. You forgot to put yourself in the book. So she responded, it was as if I'd been walking on a plate of glass, just above the real world, enough to see it, but not to touch it. I began to understand with a terrible sureness that we teach what we need to learn, and we write what we need to know. I had felt drawn to the subject of self-esteem not only because other people needed it, but because I did too. She was 60 years old when she discovered that. I was 20 years old when I read it. To learn that the woman you admire the most struggles in the same way you do was one of the most humbling and illuminating moments of my life. It made me realize that maybe I wasn't alone. Maybe I wasn't the only one who doubted themselves. And that's what the research showed me as I spent the year digging into it, that we see on overwhelming levels, people don't see themselves as capable and as competent. And in fact, some people never pursue the things they most want to do in life because they don't believe they have what it takes. They don't think they're worthy. We know the self-help industry is all over this. There's plenty of coaches you can hire, books you can get, programs you can pay for. There are plenty of ways to heal inner wounds, and many of them are very effective. The issue I take with a lot of this one-on-one self-help work is that it's all isolated. It's all in this private silo to help heal a wound so that you can show up in the real world perfect and polished. We never want anyone to know that we're hurting. We want to show up the way we are. But if we know intellectually that we're all hurting, why is that not something that we all talk about and that's accepted? And one of the things I'm really interested in doing is breaking down that public and private dichotomy in our battles, in our struggles. So what I decided to start doing was to start telling friends that I trusted unconditionally that I struggled. I would tell them when I felt insecure about something. I would share when I had a fear or when I didn't think I was going to get a job. And what do you think happened when I shared that with people? They all said, overwhelmingly said, me too. Me too. So one of the things I explore now in my work is how to understand the question of confidence in the context of community. How do we build a more courageous culture? Because as one of my favorite theorists, Peter Block, has said, transformation of individuals does not result in transformation of communities. We need to take a different approach. Trying to heal our wounds in isolated venues does not allow us to come together and share openly about what we struggle with, about what we're afraid of. So I decided, how would I try to start this work when I sought out to do it a couple years ago when I left my political career? I decided I would start with the people I considered the bravest. Who were the young people who were starting companies, who were writers, who were freelancing? Many of them are in the room right now. Who are the people who are doing things that I really admire? I went to them and I said, how do you do it? How do you overcome the voices of doubt? How do you face your struggles? Because inherent in doing anything brave, you are going to face doubt, right? You're going against the current of society. You're trying to create something based on an intuitive nudge that you don't really know you can get to, but you're trying really hard. And I was overwhelmingly unsatisfied with the answers I got. People said, you know, I talked to my family, or I talked to my close friends, talked to my therapist. There wasn't a forum by which we could share openly the things that hurt us most, to remember and become illuminated around the reality that we all struggle similarly. So I decided I was going to launch a social experiment. I was going to bring in all of those visionary, ambitious people that I had connected with and ask them if they would help me create contexts that would help other people be their true selves. It would be a gathering around work, but it wouldn't be about your accomplishments with work. It would be about the things that you struggled with. And we were trying to answer two questions. Number one, what are the conditions that allow you to be brave? Number two, what are the contexts that allow you to grow? One of the contexts, as we know, that allow you to grow is school. It's a perfect container of the hierarchy of teachers and students. When you get into the real world, it can be harder to find those counterparts on the journey, to find those collaborators who understand the struggle and who want to listen. So we started gathering people. We called it Quiet Tribe. And we gathered a few times. We gathered a dozen times. 50 to 100 people showed up. It was remarkable. We put out an invitation. We said, here's a place where you can be yourself, where you can share with people. Tomorrow we're having our 97th gathering. And we've now organized almost 1,000 people to come together around just a place of permission. There were no other rules set. What we learned is that you can slightly shift the way that you communicate with people that gives them an invitation to share their truth. And I want to share a couple clues and hints with you today, which you can use in your everyday life. The first thing we learned at our Quiet Tribe gatherings is in the real world, the first thing people say to you is, what do you do? We all want to box everyone in. I need to make sense of the craziness that exists in the world. So if I know what your job is, what your responsibilities are, and what company you associate with, then okay, I know what to do with you. But when I ask someone, what do you do? I don't actually care that much about them. I'm not actually inquiring as to their being and their general existence. So at Make Space, with our Quiet Tribe, what we say is, what are you working on? We shift it. Instead of, what do you do? I don't really care what your title is. What is the thing you're working on right now? And it could be something related to work. It could be a hobby, a passion, a side project. It could be your relationship with your uncle. Who knows? But the point is that you get insight into someone's world so much faster when you simply shift the question. Okay, so you've met someone, you ask them what they're working on. What if you know them a little bit better? There's a lot of things out there that encourage us to be real and for us to be vulnerable. But how do we encourage other people to? How do we invite them in to share something that they may really need to share? So here's something crazy that you may or may not agree with. What if you tried to stop asking people, how are you? Let's think about it. When you ask me, how are you, do you really care how I am? You're just being polite. And what if you said, right off the bat, what do you need help with? the most independent, ambitious people are the worst at asking for help. We're so used to giving, it can be very, very challenging, not only to receive, but also to ask for it, to know what we need. When you put someone who's a go-getter in an ambitious space to ask them what they need help with, it's daunting, because sometimes they don't even know. They need help with so many things they don't even know where to start. If you're really feeling bold and you want to go for it, you could say to someone straight up, if you feel comfortable with them, what are you struggling with? Creating that invitation once again that lets people maybe get something really heavy off their chest. Maybe just have a better day because they had a few minutes of someone listening. It's hard sometimes to let someone know you need their attention. What if you just offered it? How would that be? And what's the worst that could happen? Someone would say, I'm not struggling with anything, I'm perfect. And you're like, okay, sure, I know you are. So what are the things that we learned from these gatherings is that the most important thing that we learned is that it takes time. It takes so much time to find your voice, to develop trust, and to constantly feel like you can be yourself over and over. It takes practice and it takes time. Now, here's the thing that goes back to my original story that I think has been the most alarming and the most exciting is that your insecurities are actually an asset, right? Because we're all drawn to people who are real. So what if you use the things that scare you the most, that make you feel insecure, and you put them out there as collateral? You're like, this is me. What are you going to do about it? And see how people react. Are they going to then respond with the things that they're scared of? Are they then going to know that thing about you? So maybe be a little more compassionate and empathetic the next time you're struggling with it. What happens if you actually give your insecurity as part of your identity instead of trying to heal and hide it? So what we learned, finally, is that there's a contagious energy that happens the more people you gather, the more times, and that are all sharing their truth, right? It's almost self-generating. That there's a contagious energy because if he helped her, and he helped me, and she helped me, it's like you have established truth by virtue of the number of times you showed up, tomorrow being number 97. So if we want to develop a more courageous culture, and we want people to be invested and involved in each other's growth, we need to not only hear each other out, but we also need to understand that my growth, my success is dependent on your success, and that's how we build the world we want to see. Thank you.